Defiance Bay. The city at the heart of the Deerwoods Revolution now seems on the brink of another. Refugees line the streets, homeless and hungry, displaced by Whitewind's legacy, hoping for relief within the city walls, and finding none. Dissidents congregate to protest and to heckle, calling for an end to animancy and the ouster of their duke. The city's militiamen cast fearful looks as they patrol the streets, their hands trembling at the hilts of their weapons. The capital of a country that had not long ago incinerated a god now appears to be a spark away from sharing the deity's fate.
So things are going great here is what I'm gathering, and everyone's having a grand old time, and everyone's going to be really happy if they find out that I'm a warden. I mean a watcher.
It used to be a lot less of a mess.
These animancers have brought divine wrath upon us all. Is that Rowan? No. Oh yeah, he is. And yet the Duke and his toadies and the Crucible Knights do nothing. Can we allow these atrocities to continue unchecked? No. You gonna keep going? Nothing else? Down with Animancy. Let's talk to Rowan. I'm sure we'll get along great. Rowan's arms are crossed and his mouth is set in a grim frown as he watches the gathered protesters. He looks ready for a fight. He sizes you up. New in town, eh? You've picked an interesting time to visit Defiance Bay. All these refugees fleeing the frontier and finding the legacy is no better here. It's the Animancers, Magran Scorch'em, and they nest in this city like rats. You mark my words, though. Us dozens are gonna put a stop to it. Tell me about the dozens. He taps his chest. We're an organization of interested citizens who want to free Defiance Bay from the dangerous influence of Animancers and the tyranny of the aristocrats who support them. We all consider ourselves a militia of sorts, seeing as the Crucible Knights are little more than a flock of preening nobles in training these days. Just like a militia, the dozens, except for the training, and the discipline, and the code of honor. His eyes gleam. We're always looking to expand, and the more people see things our way, the better for the state of the country. You have any interest in hearing more, stop by Aldometh's Den sometime. The Expedition Hall. A lot of free thinkers in there. Can set straight all the nonsense the nobles and animancers want you to believe. Might even be some paid work for the motivated types. What are you doing out here? He gestures at the crowd, which buzzes with angry chatter, trying to get folk to see reason. We're in the midst of a crisis, and instead of purging the nefarious forces from our city, the Duke is granting Animancers dangerous liberties. What do you know about Animancy? It's the study of and manipulation of essence, which any sane person will tell you is purview of the gods. The Adirans at least had the sense to outlaw it, which is the only good thing you can say about them. It's not like magic, chanting, or the soul readings those ciphers do. It's been around since ancient Egwithan times, which is why you'll see Animancers tinkering with old Egwithan artifacts. Kana raises a fist to cough discreetly into it. Half-truths all, but he's an enthusiastic performer, I'll give him that. Rowan shakes his head. Trouble is, the Animancers got no idea what half those artifacts actually do. Not that they'll admit it. I'd like to know more about Defiance Bay. We'll see how his perspective is different. Jeez. This is the capital of the Free Palatinate of the Deerwood. We started out as the capital of Erdogan colony, but we booted the Flaccid Scepter from those lands 150 years ago. These days, we're a major port receiving trade and visitors from all over the world, but we, some of us anyway, strive to hold on to that pioneering spirit that earned us our freedom a century and a half ago. The city is divided into 5 districts: Copper Lane, First Fires, Audra's Gift, Brackenbury, and Heritage Hill. He ticks off each with a calloused finger. Tell me about First Fires. That's where the revolution started, hence the name. These days it's overrun with politicians and pardoners and panderers, but we'll take that back someday. That's where you'll find Duskull Palace, the Velian Embassy, and Crucible Keep. He shakes his head. The Crucible Knights were the original freedom fighters in Defiance Bay, but now they're just stuttering peacocks with their eyes on a fancy titles and their heads up their asses. There's an old temple of Woedica up there too. We keep it real nice for her. He winks. So that's my goal, but what about Copper Lane where we currently are? This here is Copper Lane. He taps a scuffed boot on the cobblestones. It's primarily a market district, but you've also got the Expedition Hall directly north of here, where you can join treks into the wilds. That's also where my fellow dozens, martyrs, and I tend to meet up with concerned citizens. Dozens martyrs, that's okay. That's something to follow up on. He pointed to a long domed building west of the north of your position, and that's the Hall of Revealed Mysteries. Eerie place if you ask me, but they've got the biggest library in the Deerwood. Kinda laughs. Eerie is indeed. It might be less so if more kith stepped inside. Perhaps we ought to visit Peril and see just what mysteries are revealed. Tell me about Brackenberry. A noise of distrust rattles in his throat. The nobility that didn't sail back to Eder stayed there. Most of the families there trace their lineage back to old imperial times. Other than a lot of has-been nobility, you've got Hadrit House, where Lady Webb and her spies operate. The Brackenbury Sanitarium, the main cesspit of animancy in the city. He spits on the cobblestones. Tell me about Andra's gift. Got the name because it was a wetland that was drained back in the Imperial days. Now it's a seedy district populated by sailors, common folk, and more than a few thugs. But it's a fun place too, if you know where to look. He winks and elbows you. Look for a place called the Salty Mast when you're there. Other than that, it's mostly warehouses and abandoned homes. Andra's gift is where sailors and... Alright. Heritage Hill. He shivers. It used to be one of the more prestigious districts in the city. Heroes of the Revolution claimed plots up there, next to an ancient Edwithan tower and the city cemetery. Had the best views in Defiance Bay. Attracts richer types these days. A lot of animancy patrons. He spits. He glances at the crowd and lowers his voice. You wouldn't have heard, but something's happened over there a couple months ago. The authorities sealed it off, and they're keeping their mouths shut. But mark my words, animancy's to blame. He's very enthusiastic to blame animancy for virtually anything, even when he doesn't even know what's going on somewhere. Anyway, never mind, let's talk about something else. Farewell. Down with animancy, so they're definitely having their own moments around here, but we don't need to get overly involved with the local politics right off the bat. Let's see. Goose and Fox, Marketplace, Lumdala's house, World Map, Expedition Hall, Dormitory, Hall of Revealed Mysteries, First Fires, Catacombs. So I can go to the First Fires, but why not take a look at this Hall of Revealed Mysteries as our friend would like to check out. Alright, let's satisfy Kanna's curiosity. So what are we coming up on here? It's a big open sort of theatrical area right here. Wonder if there's any sort of current performance, maybe during the day. This is probably where big performances or meetings take place. Your time has come, Sigram. Your life is at its end. I assume this is a performance? That's a lot of... Oh yeah, actors and understudies. Oh, Lafton, she calls to me, the Pallid Knight. And you have such poor luck with women as it is. I don't think we need to deal with this. I cannot die. Yet, my children. What of my children? But you have no children. Are they doing yes and activities, or are they doing a performance? Of course I do, you fool. A wealth of them. Great armfuls of golden. They can have their own fun down there. That is, golden-haired tots, all of whom I love dearly. Ha! Oh well. Is that a person? Scrivener. Can I talk to this person? The life of a scrivener sure is rough on the eyes, but it pays well. Alright, you have fun walking over in that direction. Let's figure out what this place is like and if Kana's gonna have a good old time.
All these pages serve no better use than fuel for the fire.
Oh, Durance, you lunatic. Oh, hey. Edgar wants to talk to us.
The dozens. Pretty sure you won't find one among them who stood within 100 miles of that bridge when the Godhammer went off. Too bad, too. Then there'd be less of them.
Why do they call themselves the Dozens? Was 12 Deerwoodens stood outside the Halgot Citadel waiting for Waidwen to cross the bridge there. They had to hold him there long enough for the Godhammer to detonate, so that's what they did. Godhammer? That's what they call the bomb they blew up with the Waidwen with. Don't know much about it other than that. Anything kills a living god, guess you gotta name it. What do you have against the Dozens? Ah, nothing serious. Nothing I don't have against lots of folks, anyway. The Dozens, they like to take things into their own hands. Gets ugly sometimes. We don't have them in the Gilded Vale, but they'd be right at home there. They picked that name so they could do what they wanted and feel like it was right. Got nothing to do with honor or sacrifice. They like to invoke Magran, too, when they especially want to feel right. Somehow, I don't think she's too impressed with that. Somehow, I don't think she'd be too impressed with that lot. I'm sure she'd like to set him on fire any time that they use her name, but the gods probably got rules against that kind of thing. I can say people hide behind symbols so they can't be questioned, or there must be plenty of other groups that are better reflections of the figures that inspired them, or too bad, I wouldn't mind seeing someone like that, or surely Magran has worthier followers. Yeah, let's say surely Magran has worthier followers. She draws all types, seems to me. More than she'd like, I'm sure. Warmongers, fire lovers. His eyes fixed briefly on Durance. But she does do better than that. Plenty of good soldiers said their prayers to her when she was marching towards when we were marching towards the front lines. Have to expect those were the types she'd prefer to talk to. Let's continue on. Good idea. So he's had his fair share with the Dozens or Magran in general. Welcome to the Hall of Revealed Mysteries.
How do you do?
The woman barely glances up at you from the tomes on the table as you approach. You're welcome to browse the stacks, but mind that you keep your voice down. This is still a temple after all, and Grimda doesn't tolerate disorder. This is a temple? It looks like a library. Her eyes grow wide and around. That's because it is. Wal is the god of mysteries and answers, encryption and decryption, concealment and revelation. She raises her hand to the rows of shelves. Its guidance comes from the understanding of the unknown and the protection of hidden knowledge. The Hall of Revealed Mysteries was built to celebrate that. To think there's such a place in Deerwood. Incredible. I'd love a glimpse of the archives. How many secrets must sit upon these shelves? Fascinating. Isn't it? Temples dedicated to Wal tend to hold vast stores of knowledge. We use that knowledge to unravel and preserve the mysteries of the world. Anything else? Who's Grimda? Vexa speaks reverently. Why, she's the High Archivist. She is one of the most accomplished scholars alive today. Nothing goes on here without her knowing about it. Almost nothing anyway. She scratches behind her ear. You should probably tread lightly around her today. Tell me about yourself. She throws a broad shoulders back. I am a scrivener and a devotee of Well. It's my duty to look after the records and resources. Her chest swells with pride. Well, there's a great big library. So what kind of stuff can we find around here? I was kind of here just because Kana wanted to take a look at it. So I guess we'll just take a quick run around and see if something cool shows up. Is that oh, that's a godlike over here. Can I talk to them? Nope, just a memory. You see nothing at first. Inky darkness filling your vision, and the dust of eons flooding your nose. You hear a strike, and a torch gutters into flame, revealing a man without a face, and a library of books flickering in the dull orange glow. He moves to the closest shelf, sliding the torch into a socket, and gingerly pulls a black-bound book into his trembling hands. He flicks through it lovingly, caressing each page before turning to the next, and the next. Finally he finishes. Placing the book into a satchel on his side, he takes down the torch. He spends hours wandering, reading, collecting until his satchel is as thick as he himself and half as heavy. He begins to make his way back to the entrance. With a barely audible sigh, he draws 2 decaying doors closed, and the torch is extinguished. So that's just a pretty straightforward library story, although someone who really likes books. Decaying doors, I mean, that's not the most positive environment. Not a whole lot left at that location. I can look at these locations here. So I can sort of read books, basically. The Iroquoian calendar. Arni Iroko, the new year. Oh my god. Okay, let's we don't need to go into that right now. Excerpts from the Sermon of the Struggle. This is one really long too. This one's alright. Choice is a luxury we're earned through peace. Struggle is our fundamental nature. Even when our war banners sit idle, mankind foments strife. Friends argue with fists. Lovers kindle jealousies. Merchants compete with lies. Wherever mankind goes, struggle follows. Magrun is goddess of fire and water, not bloodshed and conquest, though many in Redsurus would tell it differently. How bitter they must be that Magrun's priests were able to destroy a god made manifest. How bitter indeed. We who worship Magrun are not addled like barbarians or cloistered mystics. We are soldiers, armorers, watchmen, and bodyguards, artisans of conflict, and protectors of our families and flags. We do not salivate for battle. We view war as unwelcome, but struggle is our fundamental nature. We do not pray for strife. We pray for the wisdom to resolve it quickly. We do not wish for war, but when it inevitably must be fought, we find divine ecstasy in discipline. Magrun, guide us to the battle that is just and fair. Let us be your fire that burns away the profane, leaving only the righteous. If struggle is our fundamental nature, let victory be our inevitable state of grace. That was a nice little reading about Magrun. Okay, adding a little color and perspective to it that isn't some sort of crazy person. Keep searching. The obscured leaves clues for those who seek. So this Grimda character seems to be the person of interest on this location.
Gods keep you.
An elderly dwarf surveys the stacks. Her skin looks as tough and wrinkled as a walnut despite her stature. She manages to look down her nose at you. You're welcome to look around, but let the priests and scriveners continue their search. She shoots the nearest robed figure a weathered glance. Wouldn't do to give them any other excuses. What are they looking for? Maybe I could find it. She sizes you up, stroking her chin. Could you now? She scowls at the robed priest again. You certainly couldn't do worse than this lot, anyway. Thieves made off with an ancient scroll of well. They intend to blaspheme by selling it, that which should remain hidden. A secret of the 100 Visions. Her wiry eyebrows arch over the spectacles. The guards caught one of them, but were overzealous in their interrogation. All they could piece together was something about a farmhouse and the road to Deerford. Track the thieves down. I don't care what you do to them, but bring back the scroll. Where rewards the persistent seeker, and so do I. An ancient scroll of whale. That's a fine prize. I mean, a worthy task. What else do you need? I had questions about the missing scroll. Ask. Tell me what you know about the thieves. Very little, except they were foolish to believe they could steal from the God of Secrets. That, and they were fleeing to a farmhouse. How should I handle the thieves? However you can. Kill them, rob them, leave them. It makes no difference to me. She waves a hand and smiles grimly. I'll consider it one of Waal's mysteries. So what's so special about this scroll? Waal is the god of secrets. If I told you that, I'd cheapen it, wouldn't I? She cackles. It's a parable. The kind that nourishes the inquisitive mind and poisons the foolish. Let's see. I'd like to know more about Waal. Her smile reveals a row of crooked teeth. That's the rub, isn't it? Waal is the god of things hidden and revealed. The more the hundred visions one sees, the more one has yet to discover. Though we often call Waal he who sees and is not seen, it is neither male or female. To assign any distinctive characteristics to Waal is to miss another essential part of its divinity. The hundred visions. A term of reference for Waal's many revelations. Despite the name, they're infinite. Each epiphany leads to yet another enigma. And I thought I was busy. Tell me about yourself. I am the High Archivist of Hall of Revealed Secrets. She coughs loudly into her fist. And I am too old and too busy to be bothered with inane questions. Even just one or two, kind of sighs. Well, that turned quickly. She seemed okay with me at first. Alright, the Parable of Waal. So that's another little side quest. A task to look into. Interesting. We have a main quest up top that's actually named after the chapter we're in, apparently. We have a quest tab and we have a task tab. So it's essentially quests seem to be for our characters and tasks seem to be essentially fetch quests. Let's take a look at the symbol up here. I assume it symbolizes Waal. Impossibly, the painted eye seems to move whenever you turn your back. That's difficult to quantify. So I could spend 100 years reading things in here, but I'm going to avoid that for now. What if I take a look around, though? Am I allowed to go back here? It's probably just more library, right? No entry into the archives without Grimda's permission. Is this the archives? Let's see. Lockpicks, you need 5 mechanics. Huh. Am I allowed? I guess I'm allowed to go in here. Alright. So there might be something cool in the archives to check out later if I feel a need to break in at some point. But for now, let's not ruffle too many feathers. We're here for a reason after all. We'll continue along our path towards our current objective at the first fires. Might as well just go ahead and click on first fires here, because I can just go boop, and they'll head on over. Look at them making their way along here. Doesn't necessarily need to be in fast mode. Let's have a little bit of atmosphere. Oh, hello, person. Are you just some guard? Just to care. What is it? I'm looking for the Temple of Woedica. Huh. If you say so. It's in the first fires, just west of Crucible Keep. Never far from the Queen. We actually got an update from that, just from saying where we're going. I've asked around and learned that the temple can be found in a district called First Fire. I knew that already. Maybe it changed some other part of the dialogue. Either way, let's head to First Fires. 15 minutes. We can see what we can discover around here. Maybe we'll find out important things about who I am and what has happened to me and what things and stuff. So here we have the Valian Embassy, we have Ducal Palace, and we have Temple of Woedica. Everything else is just a way of getting to the various other districts, it looks like. So we'll take. Well, it looks like if we just go down this path and then south when we hit the staircase, we'll end up with a temple, and we'll see if anything else pops up when we're on our way down there. There's a statue over here. Maybe take a closer look at that. Really, no chance to inspect the statue of all things. The stones of this ancient tower have been blackened by century-old fires. Surrounded by a patch of wildflowers, it looks like a memorial. So if I go down the staircase, I think it's going to take me to the Temple of Woedica. Who are these guys? Characters, at the very least. Magnad. Just more stories. You see this man, much younger, lying on a large stone slab situated on a dais in the center of a circular room. At 7 points around the dais, older men in black robes prostrate themselves over ornate runes working into the stone on the floor, chanting in a low drone. An 8th man enters, carrying an ebony box inlaid with gold runes that match the runes on the floor. He stands at the head of the slab, lowers his head, and slowly opens the box. He turns to each prostrate man in turn, tipping the open box in the direction as he does. He then sets the box at the head of the slab, facing away from the young man lying there. He reaches into the box, removing a small cylinder of onyx, and then moves to the end of the slab, stopping near the young man's feet. He holds the onyx up, says a word, and then presses it against the young man's right foot. When it touches his flesh, the onyx softens and becomes a black leech, attaching itself to the young man's soul. The man repeats these steps until there are leeches on both his hands and feet, and the middle of his chest, his neck, his forehead. The older man then takes his place at the head of the slab, raises his hands, and joining the chanting, watching the young man as his blood drains. They're always definitely meant to be shocking. Lyranor. You see a dimly lit street lined with buildings. Most of them are dark and quiet, but one at the edge of a canal is bright and noisy, defying the night. This Amawa stands in the dark, huddled against the cold of the shadows, keeping away from everything. He stares at the door of the lit building, intently studying it. There is a sign hanging on the side of the building. It is barely legible in the dark, but it appears to read Goose and Fox. Movement from inside the building perks the Amawa up. He pulls his cloak closer around his face, and his breath speeds up, catching slightly. His excitement is palpable. The main door of the establishment opens, releasing a cacophony of laughter and shouting. Light spills out onto the street, illuminating a solitary figure in the doorway. The Amawa stands, bringing his right hand up in front of his face, palm down, fingers extended. The figure exits Goose and Fox and stumbles off into the darkness, swaying slightly as it walks unsteadily down the street. The Amawa follows the figure, muttering a few words under his breath and gently wiggling his hand. The tips of his fingers start glowing lightly, steam rising from them against the cold air. He increases his pace, intent on catching the figure disappearing into the night. He shakes his hand once more, and the tips of his fingers burst into flame, the flickering light revealing a manic glee in his eyes. He closes on the figure, nearly hyperventilating with happiness, and whispers a name. Kerone. The figure jumps slightly and begins to turn as the Amawa extends his hand, leveling his fingers directly at the figure. Sounds like an assassination attempt, or a hit, or maybe even a bit of revenge, I suppose. So we're coming up right on the Temple of Woedica, right around here. I'm not sure how to get inside.
Is this the old church you were looking for?
Looks like it.
Praise to the exiled queen. May her crown be restored and her justice prevail. Come to pay your respects to the queen that was.
A ghost hovers in the middle of the ruin, reciting blessings and prayers. Even as the spirit's form shifts and swirls, it retains the face of an elderly man and robes that mark wealth and status. It turns to you. Well, I can see why people were not necessarily saying we needed to. They were like, why would you want to go there? Because this place is ruins. There's not a temple here anymore. It's just kind of a bit of wall that's fallen apart. But there's a ghost in here. Who are you?
Lord Ardwellen Rugform III, and pleased to make your acquaintance. I came to the Deerwood on one of the first ships from Adia, and unlike the yokels and hut dwellers around here, I still keep to the old ways.
It's truly a pity to see that the locals have done to Woedica's house of worship. I was told to find the Temple of Woedica here.
And so you did. These savage colonists may have burned it down, but worship of the Oathbinder is alive and well. These stairs lead to the main sanctum.
What stairs?
These stairs, of course. The sanctum was always below ground, adjacent to the catacombs, so it wasn't destroyed by the fires.
Tell me where I'd find an entrance to these catacombs.
There are various entrances throughout Defiance Bay, but I dare say the easiest to reach is in Copper Lane. I haven't been to that part of town in ages, but as I recall, it's somewhere near the southern gate.
What are you doing?
Worshipping Woedica, the exiled queen and oathbinder. I come every day to offer my devotion. I'd love nothing more than to book passage back to Adia, but it is my emperor's wish that I serve in these barbaric lands. And so I do.
You know you're a ghost, right?
I beg your pardon? Is this some sort of joke where you come from?
I'm serious. Look at yourself.
A madhouse. That's what this town really needs.
He has no idea he is dead. Alright. I would like to know more about Woedica.
A queen among the gods. She oversees laws and oaths. Everything has a rightful place, and Woedica watches over them all. Of course, not everyone accepts this. Even among the other gods, her authority is questioned. But Woedica is also goddess of memory and vengeance, and she remembers. She'll remember every slight and trespass when she reclaims her throne.
Goodbye. Sagani draws up next to you. You alright? Looked almost like you'd lost your footing for a minute. Feels that way when I see into the ether. She watches you quietly. You really are a watcher, aren't you? Once in a great many generations, one of my people is born with the ability to speak to souls. Usually, such individuals become elders, or a lone set of tracks in the snow. She cocks her head. I would have thought my journey would be easier if I could see what you see, but looking at you, I'm not so sure. Neither am I. Believe it or not, I once would have rejoiced to know I'd be picked to travel far in search of something great, but even these gifts come at a cost, don't they? Forgive me if I was a little skeptical of your abilities before. I can't say I've met a real watcher before. Oh, don't you worry about him. He just likes doing that from time to time. Seems to cheer him up, so I just let him. Every time he goes a little strange in the face, I try to see if I can hear anything. Kana grins. It hasn't worked so far. See if you can get him to tell you what the spirit said. It says, what did he say? Praise to the exalted queen? Anyway, so we just made a little bit of progress here, finding out what the hell's going on. Temple of Woedica and where I am with this queen. Let's see, Mayor Wallace told me that I might find the leaden key in the city of Defiance, never far from the queen. The Temple of Woedica is in ruins, above ground at least. A half-buried staircase indicates that there is more temple below ground. Although the staircase is inaccessible to me, it's possible that there's another way in. An old spirit haunting the temple told me about an alternate entrance through the catacombs. He said it should be near the southern gate of the Copper Lane district. Alright, so all we have to do is go back to the Copper Lane district and then head to the catacombs. Which makes sense, because we did find a hint of the, I found evidence of the catacombs when I first went there. Weeds grow thick and full, untroubled by the passage of the Keith. So there's that staircase I can't use anymore. Alright, I'm gonna head back to Copper Lane then. I saw the entrance to the catacombs back there, so I know where I'm going at this point.